This is my head and neck video, and I'm doing part A. So the first thing we're going to do is immediate memory from the SCAT 5. So I'm going to give him a list of 5 words, and he's going to repeat them back to me, and then we're going to do it again. And then for the third trial, I'm going to just have him repeat them back to me without me saying them again. So the first that we're going to do is elbow, apple, carpet, saddle, bubble.
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 All right, and then can you repeat them without me saying them?
Elbow, apple, carpet, saddle, bubble.
So if for every trial that we do, if he can't do it, then he gets a 0. Or whatever number whatever word that he misses, that's 1 error, and it's out of 5, and you do that for each trial. So the next that we're going to do is serial 7. So I'm going to ask him to count backwards by 7 from 100.
100, 93, 86, 79.
Right, and if he is unable to do this, then that is a positive test, which indicates that he has impaired cognitive. Next is pronator drift test. So I'm going to have you stand up. So he is going to abduct his arms. Nope, just kidding. He's going to put his arms out in front of him while they're pronated. He's going to close his eyes. And it is a positive test if he moves his arms inward or outward, or if he starts to lose his balance, or if his arms start to drop. Very good. If any of these things happen, then that's a positive test, and that is an indication of cerebral dysfunction. Next, we have the balancing error scoring system. So for this one, you're going to do 3 different times on 2 different surfaces, one on like an air max pad and a hard surface floor, and he's going to either be barefoot or in socks. So you stand again. So for the first one, he's just going to stand with his feet together, arms on his hips, and his eyes closed, and he's going to hold it for 20 seconds. All right. If during this test he has his eyes open, his hands lift off of his hips, he abducts his hip, he wobbles on his foot, and he stumbles if he can't hold that position for 5 seconds, or if his foot that he's standing on starts to move onto his heel or the ball of his foot. So then the next one, I'm going to ask him which foot is his non-dominant, and he's going to stand on that foot, and he's going to put his hands on his hips again and close his eyes for another 20 seconds. And then for the next one, he's going to put his non-dominant foot in back of his dominant foot, hands on the hips, eyes closed again for another 20 seconds. And he struggles. So if any of the things that I mentioned that he does, that is 1 point for an error, and it's out of 10. And if he has a score of 25% or higher than his baseline for errors, then that is a positive test, and that can conclude impaired cerebral function. And just sit on the table for the next one. For the next thing we have is the Babinski's reflex. I'm going to grab something sharp. Oh, it's over there. He's going to sit back on the table with his pant leg up. And I'm going to start at the medial calcaneus with the sharp end, and I'm going to go towards his big toe. And he flexes his toe downward. It would be a positive test if his great toe extends or his other toe splay. And that is an indication of an upper motor lesion from trauma, brain trauma. So next we have the cranial nerves. So you can see at the head of the table. First one is cranial nerve number 7, which is facial, which is both. So for sensory, I'm going to give him something to eat. He's going to tell me if he tastes it or not. And for the motor, I'm going to ask him to smile and frown. If he can't do any of these, then that would be, that'd be an indication of something wrong with that cranial nerve. Number 8 is vestibular cochlear, and so this one's sensory. So to test this would be hearing or balance. So I'm going to go behind his ear, I'm gonna ask if he hears me snapping. Did you hear me snap? What side was I on?
Left.
Very good. For number 9 is glossopharyngeal, and that is both. So for sensory, I'm gonna ask him if he can taste something. And for motor, I'm gonna ask him to swallow. Great job. Number 10 is vagus. That is also both sensory and motor. For motor, he's gonna swallow. And for sensory, he's gonna say ah. Very good. For 11 is accessory. That is motor, so I'm gonna ask him to shrug his shoulders, and this is testing his traps and the sternocleidoid mastoid muscles. Number 12 is hypoglossal. This is motor, and I'm gonna ask him to stick out his tongue, if you can move it side to side. Very good. So that's how you test the cranial nerves.